if people come in, they don't know what's going on, they're going to think you people are crazy. And we see several statements like this in chapter 14. We'll talk about this more, I'm sure, as time goes on. But this would be an indication that tongues was being abused, and that really nobody understood what was being said. As I demonstrated from last week, if you didn't hear last week's message, go back and listen to it. I think I proved without any shadow of a doubt from Acts chapter 2 that tongues was what? A knowable human language. When the apostles spoke, it doesn't say they spoke in tongues, it says they spoke with other tongues. The Greek word means language. When it says they spoke with other languages, it said that the people in Jerusalem heard them each speak, each in his own language. So, that's just proof that that's what tongues is. And like I said, the Greek word glossa, translated tongues, literally either means the organ in your mouth, your literal tongue, or it refers to knowable human languages. So, that's what tongues is. And that's what happened on the day of Pentecost. People heard them speak, each in his own language. But that's not what was happening, at least to some degree, that is not what was happening in Corinth. Instead, people who wanted the gift so bad, they ended up abusing it by speaking in this unintelligible sort of babbling sound. Today, the word we usually use is gibberish. So Paul says, again in verse 23, if someone walks in, they don't know what you're doing, they're going to think you've lost your mind. Okay, now you can go back to 1 Corinthians 12. I just wanted to show you that verse so you had a sense of what was happening. You say, well, I have a Pentecostal cousin and he would disagree with you, Pastor. Well, I realize that. We'll get into that. But yeah, if an unbeliever walked in, they would think you're out of your mind. That's what he says. Now, the fellow church members in Corinth would understand. I think they would know what was they were attempting to do. They were supposedly speaking with other tongues, but again, I argue this is the abuse. So this is what Paul is trying to deal with. And when you abuse the gifts, you're not using the gift God gave you, you're using the gift that you want, and that's just not the way it works. All right, look at verse 15. So he doesn't want them to neglect their calling. Even if you have what seems to be a less significant gift, that you're the foot, so to speak. Feet are very important. Again, going back to the feet, or the eyes. Every part of the body is needed, right? Even the parts you don't think about. How many of you think about your pancreas? You never think about this. Mark's back here like, that's a terrible illustration, Pastor. No, it's a good illustration. You never think about it, but how important it is. Let's say you didn't have it, it wasn't working. All of a sudden, it's real important. But this is the point with the gifts. Look at verse 15. He's saying these things, all of the gifts are important. He says, if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, does that mean you're not of the body? Is it therefore not of the body? That's a rhetorical question, right? Of course it is. Verse 16, and if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, am I not of the body? Is it therefore not of the body? What do you think is his point? We all need each other. We all need one another, and we need all of the gifts, whether they seem, up here or down here. They're all important. There is no up here and down here. They're all just needed. So that's his point. Each member of the church has a role to play. So to reach our ultimate potential as a church, every member, every person needs to do what you do best. Don't worry about some other gift that seems more showy. You do you, as people say today. You do what you do best. That's very important. Along the same lines, the eye is very important, but not everyone can be an eye. Look at verse 17. He says, if the whole body were an eye, okay, you say the eye is so important, but what if everyone was an eye? How would that work? It wouldn't. If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole were hearing, then where would be the smelling? But now God has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as he pleased. You know what? God knows what he's doing. When God hands out the gifts, you get one thing, you get another. He knows what he's doing. All right, I think we get it. But as I pointed out last week, The Lord sovereignly distributes the gifts as he sees fit. And whatever gift he has given to you, that's the gift that you need to exercise. So it's just a matter of you figuring out what gift you have. Now, how do you figure out your gift? I'm going to repeat this again. How do you figure out what gift you have? Well, some people just know. They have a feeling, they have a sense that, well, this is what I like, or this is what I feel like I'm good at. So that's what you can ask. What do you like to do? What are you good at? Whenever you think you know what your gift is, it should be confirmed by other people. So if you say you have a gift but nobody else thinks you do, then you probably don't. But, think about what do you like to do? What are you good at? What do you want to do? Another thing, volunteer. Try out. There's a need for this ministry. Try it out. Try this. Try that. Over time, through trial and error, you'll figure out what gift God has given you. So there's all sorts of different ways. But get a list of the gifts. I can give you a list and go through. And if you're seeking, knock. It'll be open to you. Seek and you will find. You'll find out what your gift is. But let's get into the other goal. So goal number one of this sermon series is that every one of you will find out what your gift is and use it. What's goal number two? Purpose number two? Clearing up some of the confusion. Some people, like I said, tongues was being abused. It was apparently this unintelligible gibberish sound. And I said, somebody has a Pentecostal friend who's going to disagree. Well, here's the thing. Most of you probably know that when it comes to the spiritual gifts, it's sort of like eschatology, talking about the end times and the return of Jesus. Do you know how many Christians disagree when we talk about the end times? Everybody disagrees on the end times. When we talk about the mode of baptism, right? That's another topic that Christians seem to disagree on. Well, a lot of Christians disagree when it comes to the spiritual gifts.